Imagine this: a quiet suburban street, flashing red and blue lights cutting through the night, officers moving in with purpose. They think it's just another arrest, standard procedure. But within moments, everything changes. The man they're putting in handcuffs isn't just any suspect. He's an FBI agent, and what happens next is something no one saw coming. At first, it seems like a mistake, maybe a mix-up in paperwork or the wrong name on a warrant. But as tensions rise, the officers start to realize they may have walked into something much bigger than they ever expected. The agent remains calm, almost too calm, as if he knows something they don't. Then, just as they're about to load him into the squad car, he speaks, just a few words, but enough to stop them in their tracks. What did he say? And why did it make the officers hesitate? This was supposed to be routine, yet suddenly, everything feels off. The silence between them is thick, the weight of the moment pressing down. Then, in the blink of an eye, the situation flips, and those who thought they were in control realize they're the ones at a disadvantage. This is more than just an arrest. It's a glimpse into a world most people never see, a world of hidden authority, classified secrets, and lines of the black SUV comes to a slow, deliberate stop. Its engine hums low, steady, like it's not in a rush, like whoever's inside already knows they have control. The officers exchange glances. This wasn't part of the plan. No backup was called. No higher-ups had mentioned outside involvement. So who the hell just showed up? The agent in cuffs doesn't turn to look. He doesn't need to. His expression stays unreadable, but there's something in the way he stands now. Almost like he was expecting this. The veteran officer feels a cold realization creeping in. This isn't a standard arrest. It never was. The SUV doors open in sync, two figures stepping out in matching dark suits. No police badges, no markings, just the quiet confidence of people who don't need introductions. They walk toward the scene with measured steps, eyes scanning every detail. The younger officer, still gripping the agent's arm, squares his shoulders. "This is a police matter," he says, his voice sharp, defensive. He's trying to keep control, but it's slipping fast. One of the suited figures stops just a few feet away. He pulls out a slim leather wallet, flicks it open, then just as quickly shuts it. Whatever identification was inside, it was only meant to be seen, not questioned. "He's coming with us," the man says, his voice firm but calm. The younger officer shakes his head. "Not how this works. He's in our custody." The second suited figure finally speaks. "Not anymore." The tension thickens. The veteran officer's instincts are screaming at him now. There are rules in place, procedures, but something about this moment feels bigger than rules, bigger than him. And as the two suits take another step forward, he realizes something chilling. They were never supposed to make this arrest in the first place. The night air feels heavier now, charged with something unspoken. The veteran officer can feel it, a silent battle for control happening right in front of him. The two men in suits stand firm, their presence alone shifting the balance. The younger officer, still gripping the agent's arm, isn't backing down, but there's hesitation in his stance now. He wants to fight this, but even he can tell something is off. The agent, still cuffed, finally turns his head slightly, just enough to glance at the veteran officer. There's no panic, no desperation, just a quiet certainty, as if he's waiting for the inevitable. "You need to let me go," he says, voice steady. The younger officer clenches his jaw. Not happening. One of the suited men exhales, almost like he's disappointed. "You don't understand what you're doing." The tension snaps tighter. The veteran officer's fingers twitch near his radio. Everything inside him is telling him to stop this before it escalates, but he also knows letting go of a suspect without explanation isn't protocol. His mind is racing, flipping through possibilities. Was this a cover-up, a classified operation? Were they being used as pawns in something they didn't even realize was playing out? Then, a voice crackles through his radio. The station. But it's not dispatch, it's someone higher up, someone he never hears from directly. The voice is clipped, urgent. "Release the suspect." Stand down. Now. The veteran officer feels his pulse in his ears. He's been on the force too long to mistake what's happening. This isn't just a mistake. This is something he was never supposed to see. And before he can even process it, the suited men take another step forward. And that's when everything changes. Power that can't be crossed. So what happens when someone does cross them? What are the consequences of arresting someone who knows the rules better than the ones enforcing them? Stay with me, because what you're about to see will change the way you think about law enforcement, power, and the people who truly run things from behind the scenes. The officer gripping the agent's arm feels the shift immediately. The man they thought was just another suspect isn't resisting, but he isn't afraid either. There's something about the way he stands, the way he looks at them, like he knows something they don't. One of the officers, a veteran on the force, narrows his eyes. He's been in law enforcement long enough to recognize when a situation is bigger than it seems. He studies the agent's face, searching for a sign, anything that explains why his gut is telling him this is wrong. But before he can say anything, the agent speaks again, his voice calm, almost too measured. "You have no idea what you're doing," he says. The younger officer, still gripping the cuffs, scoffs. "You're under arrest. You don't get to tell us what we do and don't know." But the veteran officer isn't so sure anymore. His mind is racing. If this man is really FBI, then detaining him should come with orders from way higher up. So why weren't they warned? Why was this arrest handed down through standard channels like it was any other case? It doesn't add up. Then the agent does something that makes the air around them feel heavier. He looks directly into the veteran officer's eyes and says, "Call your supervisor, right now." The younger officer tightens his grip. "Not how this works, buddy." But the veteran hesitates. Something isn't right. This man isn't panicking, isn't pleading. He's waiting, as if he already knows exactly how this will play out. And that's when a black SUV rolls up, its headlights cutting through the tension. The doors swing open, and just like that, the power in the situation shifts again. The moment the order comes through the radio, the veteran officer feels his stomach drop. The command was clear: release the suspect. No questions, no explanations, just let him go. But the way it was said, it wasn't just an order, it was a warning. The younger officer looks at him, confused, waiting for some kind of pushback. "You heard that, right? That." He stops himself, glancing between the agent and the two suited men. He can feel it too now. The shift. The weight of something bigger pressing down on them. But before either officer can move, the agent, still in cuffs, takes a deep breath and says something neither of them expects. "You took the wrong guy." The veteran officer stiffens. "What?" The agent doesn't blink. "I'm not the one you were supposed to arrest." The younger officer scoffs. "Yeah, okay, that's a new one." But there's an edge in his voice, a crack in his confidence. He can feel the ground beneath him shaking, even if he won't admit it. The suited man closest to them sighs and pulls a phone from his pocket. He taps the screen once, then turns it around. The screen displays a live security feed, a dimly lit warehouse, inside of which a figure is being led away in handcuffs by men in tactical gear. The veteran officer squints at the screen. His breath catches. It's the same face. The same man they have standing in front of them right now. Or so they thought. The agent tilts his head slightly, watching their reactions. "Now do you understand?" Before either officer can respond, the sound of another engine rumbles in the distance. More vehicles, more people, and the night, already filled with unanswered questions, is about to get even darker. The low rumble of approaching engines sends a fresh wave of tension through the air. The veteran officer's grip tightens on his radio as he watches the suited man pop at his phone. His mind is racing, trying to make sense of what he just saw. How could the same man be in two places at once? And if this wasn't their suspect, then who, or what, was standing right in front of them? The agent, still in cuffs, exhales slowly, almost like he's giving them a moment to catch up. "You were never supposed to bring me in," he says, his voice calm but firm. Someone gave you the wrong order on purpose. The younger officer's confidence is unraveling. He glances at the veteran, searching for an answer, but there isn't one. None of this makes sense. The live feed, the sudden intervention, the command to stand down. It's like they were thrown into the middle of something way beyond their clearance level. Then the black SUVs from the distance pull up fast, tires skidding slightly on the pavement, doors fly open, and more men in dark suits step out. But this time, the urgency is different. They aren't here to negotiate. One of them, an older man with graying hair and an expression carved from stone, steps forward. His eyes lock onto the agent. Enough. The suited men who first arrived take a step back. The agent doesn't move. The older man turns to the officers, his voice like gravel. Take the cuffs off. Now. The veteran officer hesitates. Sir, You didn't arrest an FBI agent. The man interrupts, eyes cold. You arrested the one person who was keeping this operation from falling apart. A heavy silence falls over them. The younger officer's hand twitches near his belt, but he doesn't reach for his weapon. Then the agent speaks again. The man you're watching on that feed, the one they just took, he's not who they think he is. He pauses. But by the time they realize that, it'll be too late. The veteran officer feels a chill run down his spine. Too late for what? A sudden beeping sound breaks the silence. One of the suited men checks his earpiece, his expression turning grim. The older man with grey hair mutters a curse under his breath, then turns to the agent. You planned this. The agent finally smiles, just a little. You knew who I was before you got here. You should have known better. Then, in one smooth motion, he raises his cuffed hands, and with a quick twist of his fingers, the metal snaps open. The cuffs hit the pavement with a sharp clatter. The younger officer stumbles back, eyes wide. How? But before anyone can react, the agent takes a step toward the veteran officer, lowers his voice, and says one last thing. Tell your department to check their records. You'll see who really put that arrest order in. Then, without another word, he walks toward the older man in the suit. No one stops him. No one even tries. The veteran officer doesn't move. His mind is already racing ahead, connecting dots he wasn't supposed to connect. And as the black SUVs pull away into the night, he knows one thing for certain. This was never about an arrest. It was about control. And tonight, they'd just learned the hard way who really has it. The veteran officer stood there long after the SUVs disappeared into the night, the weight of what had just happened settling in. His younger partner finally spoke, his voice quieter now. What just happened? The veteran didn't answer right away. He reached down, picking up the open cuffs from the pavement, turning them in his hands. They were standard issue, nothing special. Yet the man they had arrested had slipped out of them like they were nothing. That alone should have told them everything they needed to know. He exhaled slowly, shaking his head. We were never in control. The younger officer frowned. But we had an arrest warrant. Someone sent us out here. That's exactly the problem, the veteran said. His mind was already turning over the agent's last words. Asterisk check your records asterisk who had issued the order. Who had set this up? And why? Back at the station, he wasted no time. He pulled up the case file, scanning through the names, the approvals, the authorization codes. But the deeper he looked, the less sense it made. The arrest order had come from somewhere high, too high for a routine case. And then, just as he was about to dig further, the file suddenly disappeared from the system. Just like that, it was gone, like it had never existed. The veteran leaned back in his chair, staring at the blank screen. He had been on the force a long time. He knew when to push and when to step back. And this was one of those times where pushing too hard might mean asking questions no one wanted answered. He glanced at his partner, who was still waiting for some kind of explanation. Let it go, he finally said. The younger officer looked like he wanted to argue but didn't. He just nodded slowly. As they left the station that night, neither of them spoke. But they both knew the truth. Some cases don't get solved. Some people can't be touched. And sometimes, the ones pulling the strings are the ones you never see coming.